Thank you for coming tonight. We are having our Meet the Candidates night here in Vineyard Elementary School with David and Nikki as our candidates for seat three. Thank you. Terry McCabe will be our moderator. This is being put on by the PTA, and we just want to read the motto so we all remember our purpose. To make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Terry McCabe, who is our moderator, is a Provo City School District Board of Education member. She is on the committees for finance, legislative, and safety. She has presented to the Utah State Legislature. She has volunteered with the PTA and her local library. She has a bachelor's and master's from BYU in athletic training, and she is a devoted mother and wife, and we thank her for her civil service.
Thanks. Okay, I want to thank the PTA and Vineyard Elementary School for hosting this event, and thank you to the candidates for being willing to create a new school district. So let's get to know them. They will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, 1 minute to answer questions, and 2 minutes to summarize. And we have Kim as our timer. All right, and David, you are first.
Well, thank you for letting me come tonight. Thank you, Vineyard Elementary and Lori Belletti, who's the principal here. And thank you, PTSA, for hosting us or for offering to do this. Like Terry said, my name is David Smith. I'm running for school board in District Number 3. That's everything west of the freeway in Orem Vineyard. My background is in education. I taught and was a building principal, assistant principal, as well as a district office person in Alpine School District for over 30 years. Retired a couple years ago. I'm still working. I got a job working at the new Primary Children's Hospital in Lehi. I work in school services, sticking with the school theme. And I help kids transition back to school safely when they've had some disease, injury, whatever. So I've spent my career in education. I have a passion for kids who are disadvantaged as well as advanced kids. I just have a passion for kids. That's one of the things I like about my current job is I get to help kids every single day. I'm anxious to run for school board. I think we have a chance for a fresh start. When we first decided to split, or when it was first announced that we're splitting, I was a little, not worried, but a little sad because Alpine had been so good to me. But then over time, as I've decided to run, as I've thought more about it, I'm just really excited to have a fresh start here in the Pleasant Grove, Linden, Vineyard, Orem area. And I think we have a chance to have a great school district started right. Started with people who are civil to each other and with dialogue that can disagree in a civil way, in a nice way, and find the best solutions for our kids. I don't really have anything that I really feel like, gosh, we need to get this done right now. Instead, my job is to kind of look and see and then work with the board to make the best decisions for the new school district, Timpanogos or whatever.
Okay, Nikki.
I am Nikki Bristow. I live in Vineyard with my family. We've lived in Vineyard for 8 years, and before that we lived over here by Vineyard Elementary for 5. So we've been in the area for a while. I have 4 kids. 3 of them are in elementary school at Trailside, and 1 of them is in preschool here at Vineyard. And I also started in education. I taught at Sharon Elementary in Orem for 6 years before I had my kids. And once my oldest started school, I got involved with PTA and the school community council at Trailside, and I've loved being involved in that way and knowing the goals of the school and the needs of the school. And as the new school district was coming about and I was hearing in lots of different meetings, we need school board people, we need people to watch out for our kids, I just kept feeling more and more pulled towards it. So that is the biggest part of why I'm running. I just kept feeling like I could be a good help to start our district off right and to make sure that the kids in our area are taken care of. And I love this area and I love all the people around us, and I hope that I can serve our people well and show what we need in our new district and stand up for our needs. and that's great.
Okay, first question, David.
So, okay, is David gonna start?
Yep, he's first, and then once he's answered, then you'll answer.
Okay,
And then you get the next question.
okay, great.
Hey, David, if you are the board president, what committees would you recommend for the new school board, and how would you determine the best way to assign members to each committee?
So I don't know about all the committees, but I know we need a policy committee. We need a finance committee. We need a curriculum instruction committee. We need a kind of special, like students who have kind of extra needs, whether it be gifted and talented or special ed, kind of a committee that works with that group. I'm sure there's other ones that I've left out, but that's kind of where we'd start. And then how do we decide who's gets to be on what committee? We look at what experience they have. Like for instance, if it's a policy committee, I don't find passion in policy, but I do find passion in curriculum instruction. That's what I have a graduate degree in, and I'd love to be on that committee. That's what I've always had interest in. I really have a passion for kids who have a little bit special needs, whether it be on the high end or the low end. That's where my children have been. So that's where I'd go.
This is gonna be a very hard night because David and I think similarly on almost everything. So I love the committees he chose. One that I would add is a communications committee. I feel like we're gonna need to, right off the bat, be ready to communicate with our communities and our parents about what's happening, what decisions we're making, what we're looking for. And so that one would be one that I would add that we would need right away. And I also thought the same thing, just look at who's on the board and what their strengths are, and maybe if there's an area of the district that has higher needs in one of those areas, assigning that board member to be over it could be a way to help out with that.
Okay, Nikki. What key topics or information should be covered in an orientation for new board members?
Who would be holding the orientation?
That is up to you as a board.
Okay. Well, I would hope that we would be given information on I have no idea how to start this answer. I just don't know who would be orienting us because we're the people. But I would want information on, I guess, the laws that are in place that we would have to make all of our decisions based on, because clearly we need to be in compliance with those things, and if we don't have a clear shot of that at the beginning, it could set us up for disaster later. So I would hope that would be part of it. Also, I would like to get information from Alpine District on really specific budgeting that they've done and how that's going to transfer into our new districts, what kinds of things will be going with that.
Thank you, Nikki, for taking that first question, because I've had a little bit of chance to think about it. So a couple of thoughts I've had is, one is the state school, the state of Utah has the State School Board Commission or State School Board Organization up in Salt Lake. And they do a lot of orienting with new school board members and new school boards, and for that matter, existing school boards. There's a man, his name I think is Richard Stoll, and he is somebody who would come and help us right off the bat. In addition to that, there's 7 board members who are vested in the kids that we're talking about. The Alpine School District School Board, that they could help orient us, as well as, depending on who wins, there's a couple of people who have been in school boards before and they could really help us. So those are the 3 places: current school board for Alpine, and those who are on the board here that have been on boards before, and then the state as well.
All right, David.
An easy one, please.
Have you started writing interview questions for the superintendent and business administrator applicants? Name one question you would like to ask each applicant.
I just started right now. I've thought a little bit about that. We haven't come up with, I haven't come up with the 10 questions that I would ask or whatever, but I think that one of the first ones that I would ask is something about the superintendent or the superintendent candidates' ideas on vision for learning. I really think what happens in the classroom and how we make sure the teachers are ready to make sure what we want to happen in the classroom is happening. Vision for learning, whether that's similar to what Alpine currently has or whether it's a little bit different with it based on the needs that we have. But I think one of my first questions and one of my really interesting thoughts that I have is what's their vision for learning, and does it fit with what our school board's going to have for vision for learning, so we can get that out to the classrooms and kids can start learning that way.
Okay, going along with what David talked about, I would want to ask the superintendent candidates how they're going to create a sense of enjoyment and joy in the learning process. I would love our classroom environments and our school environment to be joyful, and that the kids and the teachers want to be there. That's really important to me. And so that would be something I would want to talk to them about, and also how we can make sure that we have high levels of learning for all students. I would also want to talk to a business administrator about whether or not their background is in business finance or government finance, because it's different. Businesses are making money and we are not, and we have a set budget, and so just making sure that they have that good background to support us.
Okay, Nikki. How would you approach property tax decisions in the new district? And under what circumstances would you support a tax increase?
I know this is a hot topic. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. I would love for us to be able to not, but I know that it's going to have to be an option that we look into as we are balancing our budgets and our deficits and making sure we have enough for all of the programs that we need. I would hope that we can balance it out by cutting other things and not having to raise property taxes, at least not much and not right away, and see what we can do with it. That's what I would hope.
Can you ask the question again?
How would you approach property tax decisions in the new district, and under what circumstances would you support a tax increase?
Alpine School District, when they kind of did the study of splitting, came up with the number of about $18 million that this South District, Timpanogos District, would be in the red, and we need to run in the black. We can't run in the hole year after year. And knowing that, I think in part, Alpine School District Board of Education passed a leeway that's going to raise about $7 or $8 million for this area. So now our in the hole is going to be about $10 million. So we'll have to find some way to do that. Raising taxes is one of the last things I'd look at. But there's lots of things that I'd want to look at the last. But we have to somehow make it so that we're in the black. So what would we do? We'd look at the boundaries of schools, and we'd look at other things that we can do to tighten the belt, at the same time make sure that we have what we need to run the district.
Okay, David. When setting policies for the new district, which existing ASD policy would you prioritize keeping, and which would you recommend eliminating?
That's a good question. You know, in general, I think what I do is I take Alpine School District policies and just basically adopt them in mass, and then start going through them. A lot of their policies are based on law. There's no reason for us to have to go learn the law and then write policy that's exactly the same that Alpine's using. We use that and name it Timpanogos or whatever district we call ourselves, name it that. Is there something that I think we should get rid of? You know, I can't think of any one policy that I thought, man, I wish we could get rid of that right now. Through the years, I think there's some policies that need to be adjusted on a regular basis. That's one of our jobs as board members, is to look through the policy on a regular basis, make sure it's updated, and then move on, react to any laws that come out, and pass new policy or adjust policy. Thank you.
I would just agree and say I've thought of this before, and I wouldn't want to say right now without meeting the other board members without hearing the needs from the other areas, what I would for sure cut and for sure keep. Because I want to make sure that we are really doing what we need for our new district. And so, like David said, look through the ones Alpine has with a fine-tooth comb and decide what is really needed for our area and our kids and our teachers.
Okay, Nikki, what process would you recommend the new school board use to select a name for the new school district?
Oh, this is a fun question. I know people are really invested in this idea. I would love to get as much public input as we could. I've heard lots of ideas bounced around already, like Geneva is one that I've heard, and lots of people are super opposed to Timpanogos, and obviously other people love it. But I would hope that each of us could canvass our areas in some way and get some ideas and get people's input so that we can make sure it's a unifying name that is liked by the majority, if we can.
My daughter teaches at Timpanogos, and one of my best friends works as Timpanogos as the principal. And when I've talked to them, and they said, well, I like the name Timpanogos School District. I've told them, coming from someone who was the principal of Mountain View, I like the name Mountain View School District. What's wrong with Mountain View School District? And they're like, we wouldn't do that. Well, then let's not do Timpanogos, or Pleasant Grove, or Orem. So let's not name it after one of our high schools. How would I go about that? I think we put out a wide band, just collect as many names as possible by communicating with all four school district, all four municipalities. We gather all that information. We get rid of the ones that won't work. We take the ones that will work, put it out there, have a little bit of vote, narrow it down to 3, and then have the Board of Education choose which of the 3 seems to fit. So I think that's the process that I would use, to gather as many names as possible and narrow it down to choose one.
Okay, David.
Which I think should be Mountain View High School.
Okay, David, what technology policies should the new district adopt?
You know, I know that there's a new law / new policy, and then every school uses that to kind of apply it in their own ways as far as cell phone policy. That's one thing that we should address and make sure that we have a strong policy on. I know that every school kind of wants a little bit of input on that, and that's great, but let's make sure that cell phones are a benefit and not a drawback to our kids' learning. I think that's one of the things that we'd work on. The other part is the Chromebooks in the secondary schools, and then I know there's kind of an iPad initiative in elementary schools. Let's just make sure that we're not killing time with technology. Technology is a way to enhance education, not a way to do education. Let's make sure that we use it to enhance education and accelerate. Let's make it an accelerator of learning and not something that we fall back on because we're lazy or because we don't want to or because whatever. Let's use it as an accelerator.
I wanted to say that making sure Tier 1 instruction is strong even if the technology isn't working for the most part. Making that an enhancer and not the main Tier 1 instruction use, and just making sure that all technology in our schools, like David said, is strongly supporting the education and making sure all the programs that we use are proven to help in learning and to make sure that it is a use that is helpful and not just there for fun.
Okay, Nikki, what role should collaboration with other districts play in maintaining access to unique resources like the print shop, Clear Creek, and the Space Center compared to funding and managing them within the new district?
I think that's going to be super important for us to collaborate with the 2 new districts and the current Alpine School Board. We won't be able to move on and create these great new districts without collaborating together. I love collaboration. It was huge at Sharon where I taught, and I've seen it work super well within one school and in the district at each level, and I know that we just have to do it with all those 3 new districts and our old district in order to get started. I would also love to see us collaborate some with the Provo School District, because they've been in our position, our size, in our area for longer, and it would be great to get their expertise.
It's my understanding that we already do that a little bit with our warehouse, where Alpine School District shares with some charter schools and some other districts to provide lower cost warehouse items like paper or pencils, tape, whatever, things like that. I think we should continue doing that when it's feasible and when it makes sense, especially initially, before we have a chance to kind of divide every single thread to make sure that it's exactly where we want it as a district. We should share. We should kind of lean on each other to make it so that we can get through the next few years in a positive, helpful way, where we're treating each other still with respect from district to district to district, but we're sharing some resources to help with that. I have another thing to add to that, and that is places like Dan Peterson and ATEC. My youngest son, a foster son, goes to Dan Peterson. He's a senior this year, and he has a couple more years before he turns 22. He's 17 now, will turn 18 in a few months. And so that's something we have to look at. How are we going to share that, or how are we going to split that? How is that going to make sense?
All right, David, what should the new school board consider to address teacher burnout?
Well, that's a hard question, you know. I go back to when I was a teacher, and the thought of teacher burnout and how I felt about things. And I think things are more complicated now. I have 4 children who are teachers, 3 in Alpine School District, 1 which will be in Timpanogos School District, the one at Timpanogos. There's real burnout that she's facing in her position, and part of it is she has a really hard position as a teacher. But part of it is that's just part of the nature of the teaching job nowadays, it seems like. And I would say support. In the past, my daughter's always had a teacher leader she can call, and that teacher leader shows up and gives her the support she needs. As the district starts splitting over this year and then over the next couple of years, she's lost that support and feels the burnout more. So we need to just support at the district level, at the school level.
Yeah, good answer. Like I talked about before, I think if we can make our culture in our district one of joy, where the kids and the teachers love to be there, then that can help. And part of that is the support. And also, I would love, as a board member, to go to the schools on a regular basis and interact with the teachers and get their feelings and get where they feel like they need more support. I know sometimes as things move up the line from the classroom to the district, some of that gets lost. And so I would really like to make sure that we keep in close contact with the teachers so we can really know what supports help them the most.
Okay, Nikki, how should the board balance community concerns, enrollment trends, and facility needs when deciding on school closures or boundary adjustments?
That is going to be very difficult. I know each board member from each area is going to know their community and what their needs and concerns are. And so as we make those decisions, making sure we take into account that particular community's feelings about things and their needs, and hoping that we can address their biggest concerns as we have to change boundaries or change schools, close schools. I mean, there are going to have to be changes made for sure, and just making sure that we are transparent about those changes and those needs as we try to balance it with the community's concerns is what I hope we could do.
Can you repeat the question?
How should the board balance community concerns, enrollment trends, and facility needs when deciding on school closures or boundary adjustments?
Yeah. So my wife grew up in Orem and went to Sharon Elementary, which is now closed. And that's not been necessarily hard for her, but it is every time she drives by, it's hard for her. And all 6 of my children went to Mountain View High School, and 6 of them went to Orem Junior. One went over to Lake Ridge for a couple of years because we moved. And then all of my children came to Vineyard Elementary, the old Vineyard over by UVU and the new Vineyard. And if we turned out to close one of those buildings, they would have a problem, and that's how everybody's going to feel about all the schools in the district. So what do? First, we look at what facilities need to be like changed or rebuilt. If you have to rebuild the whole school and you don't need a school, that's where you're going to look, and it's going to be hard. And we're going to do it with compassion. We're going to think really, we're going to seek feedback. We're going to do everything we can to hear people. But we just use common sense when we're dealing with this kind of.
Okay. David, how do you plan to involve the community in your information gathering and decision-making process?
I talked about naming a school district. You gather information, you narrow it down, then the board makes a decision, or whoever's in charge of that makes a decision. So how do? You just keep the door, you keep your ears open, you visit schools, visit the communities. We have only 4 municipalities. We can visit the municipalities, visit the schools. We live in the community. We can listen to our neighbors and see what they have to say. I love that in our district, or our seat, we have Orem and Vineyard, so we get to reach out to Vineyard just ourselves to figure out what they're saying. We both live in different parts of the area down here, and we can listen, we can gather information, look at Facebook, and just keep gathering information as we're making decisions.
As David and I have been campaigning, we have gone to the school community council meetings and the PTA meetings together at Vineyard, Trailside, Lake Ridge, Orem Junior, and Mountain View. And I would want to continue that for sure. I have loved going to those meetings and hearing the needs and the strengths and the weaknesses of each of those schools. I would want to regularly be in the schools, and like I talked about before, visiting the teachers too. I would love to be able to spend my time at the school really diving in and hearing what they need there. And like David said, that's one strength of having a small district, is our area is smaller. We can get to know our people and hear what they want from us.
Okay, last question. Nikki. You are meeting with a city council member. They ask you a question about safe routes to school. How would you approach finding the answer and delivering the information to them?
Well, fabulously, I went to Vineyard's school community council meeting yesterday. They talked about this. There is Safe Routes Utah online where you can go and see all of the safe routes. And they have worked with each school to make sure that there is a map from each area of the school boundaries that shows where the crosswalks are, where the crossing guards are, and the best ways to get to each school.
I would add, my belief is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the school community council, that's one of their jobs, is to create a safe school plan to get to school safely. If it's bused, then that's taken care of, but if it's not, there needs to be a safe school. I know when I supervised schools out west a few years ago, there was talk about getting rid of a bus run because the neighborhood was almost right across the street from the school, but it was a busy street, a super busy street. And the only way to get to the sidewalk was to walk a half mile the opposite direction, cross with the sidewalk, with a crosswalk, and then walk on sidewalk the half mile and then another quarter mile to get to the school. And it was like, there's no junior high, it was a junior high school, there's no junior high student that I know that's gonna walk a half mile the wrong direction to get to a crosswalk. They're gonna be running across the street. We need a bus here. And so we kept a bus there. And so that you just look at the routes, talk to the principals, make sure you're making a good decision, and make sure kids are safe always, including, by the way.
Time's up.
You can tell them after.
Okay.
Dropping off kids.
Okay, you get 2 minutes to convince everyone to vote for you. Nikki goes first.
Okay, well, vote for me. I really, like I said before, I've just felt very pulled towards this. I feel very involved currently in our schools and in what we need here in our community. And I would love to represent us and to make sure that our new school district is just started off with a bang, making sure that we are making those hard decisions based on what is best for kids. And that we can look at things logically and financially responsibly, but also taking into consideration the needs of the people around us.
And I'd say vote for me as well. I've lived in this community, the West Orem Vineyard community, for 35 plus years. I've raised my kids here. They've gone to Vineyard Elementary. They've gone to Orem Junior, Lake Ridge, Mountain View. I have the education as well as the experience to kind of hit the ground running as we're forming this district. I was hesitant to throw my name in the hat because I thought it's a lot of work and there's a lot of mudslinging. And then I thought, David, you're prepared. You've had the education. You can do this. Stand up. If nobody stands up and does this, then you get what you get. But you have an opportunity to represent this area in a very good way. I love this area. And I just reached the point where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna stand up and do this, and if I win, great. If not, then at least I tried. I've known Nikki for years, several years, many years, and she's a fine person as well. And I think both of us are good candidates, and we'll see how it all lands out. I think I have experience on my side, and that's why I would vote for me, is because of the experience that I have, where I can kind of hit the ground running a little bit better, maybe a little bit faster, or maybe a little bit wiser, I don't know, more experienced, I think is the word I'd use. Start this right, fresh start, really get this thing going in the right direction, the way that you and I want it started. Thank you again for attending.
All right, let's give a huge thank you to the candidates for participating. All right, good luck to you, the voters, and who to decide to vote for. And remember, ballots need to be turned in by November 4th at 8 p.m. And the closest ballot box is at the Vineyard City Office, the Orem City Library, and Orem Senior Friendship Center. And the Vineyard City Office and Orem Center Point Church will also be voting centers on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if we didn't get to your questions, make sure you stop by and talk to the candidates, and everyone travel home safely.